What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you another video. Today's video is a video on Transformers Robots in Disguise, episode 7. Actually, what am I saying? It's episode 8. Confusing the episodes now. Episode 8. This episode is referred to as True Colors. Now, just saying right away, the name is not accurate to the truth of the episode, but you'll see. Okay, this episode also is very interesting because a lot of plot points that have, they've been brought up and they've been talked about a bunch of times, but they never went anywhere, are finally being, gone. Like, the story is really happening in this episode. It's very significant. So many things happen that are connecting to things that were kind of happening, but nothing was really seen, and we really didn't get a full sense of what was going to happen yet. I mean, we had ideas, but we really don't know. I'll get into that soon enough. So anyway, this episode starts off with Fix-It trying to explain to Rusty what the how the status, like how a certain machine that he's creating works. The thing is that, like most of the characters, Rusty really doesn't focus that much on Fix-It, considers Fix-It just this no big deal character, while Fix-It really is trying to teach him something. Fix-It ends up making the machine that he's making actually work, and following this, once he makes the machine work, Fix-It ends up, everyone ends up freaking out, getting confused about what it is, because it's an alarm that goes off. We find out later that the alarm that we're hearing is a proximity alarm, which is being used, which would help for, signaling for trouble and making people aware, which will probably be beneficial for later episodes a lot more. Though this episode, it is used, it's not used to the same extent that it will probably be used later on. But currently speaking, it's, proximity alarms are meant to signal people for help. Anyway, what happens is that Fix-It then asks B how the mission went. B explains that they went in search of this status pod, which they found, which was filled with mud, and only mud, and so they weren't really happy. Let's just say that much. Then Strongarm mocks Sideswipe, of course, which is normal, basically saying that you didn't do much, and then Sideswipe's like, well, Grimlock did even less, and then what happens is that Grimlock then, out of nowhere, throws Sideswipe across the scrapyard, and suddenly everyone's really confused and, in shock, because, that's not Grimlock. Grimlock's, though he's not the smartest character ever, he knows better than to throw an ally, so everyone's very confused as to what's going on. And Strongarm, being the character that tends to take the side of negativity, immediately begins to think after eventually what happens is that Bumblebee actually ends up trying to calm him down, and that's really when Strongarm is like, okay, Grimlock is bad. End of story, it sounds like. At least Strongarm thinks that. Remember, Strongarm's always is always on the side of negativity most of the time. She doesn't mean to always be that way, but that's how she is. So anyway, what happens is that then Strongarm tries to even Strongarm ends up knocking over some junk and knocking it on top of Grimlock. The thing is that it doesn't hold Grimlock for any length of time, and suddenly Grimlock gets up and attacks Strongarm. So at this point, all three of them have been knocked down. And the thing is that Fix-It and Rusty are a distance away, hiding from Grimlock, because this is not a good time to do it, obviously. Not a good time to be near him. So anyway, then, since they're all down, Grimlock begins to look for, Fix-It and Rusty. He finds Fix-It. Fix-It actually tries to defend the Alchemor, because the Alchemor, is like the main computer system that has all the prisoners or whatever. And so what happens is that the Alchemor Fix-It ends up using this gun. Now this gun is supposed to have a shocking effect or whatever. It really doesn't do all that much to really help in any way. And suddenly, and Grimlock, you realize that I've dealt with three Autobots, and I still haven't, in their case, I still haven't used much of my coolant, which in this case would be the equivalent to sweat for humans. And so then what happens is that Fix-It uses his gun, and the gun does barely anything to Grimlock. Grimlock then ends up flicking Fix-It. Following this, Grimlock goes, like, he ends up being shot towards where Rusty is. Grimlock goes towards Rusty, and what happens is that Grimlock is ready to smash Rusty. The thing is that Grimlock is not himself. Grimlock is being controlled by something. At this point in time, it's not very clear what it is. And the thing is that he's like, no, you're saying, so he's talking to himself, and he's just like, but you're saying I can't destroy this thing. And the thing is that it basically prevents him from doing that. So it's pretty clear at that point, because he ends up talking to himself that yes, he's being controlled. So then he's like, all right, forget it. So then he goes and looks for status pods. You may think to yourself, what's going on here? Status pods. Why are you going for status pods? Well, we'll find out very soon. So anyway, he ends up walking around trying to find some status pods. He has like this cart that it's a pretty sizable cart. And anyway, he's like moving it around, and he finds the status pods eventually. And due to the fact that he didn't really incapacitate each of the bots, he can't do anything perfectly at the time in regard to carrying all the status pods. But while this is happening, Rusty ends up talking to Fix-It, who is damaged but is able to help a little bit, basically asking him how to work the proximity alarm. So Fix-It explains how to work it, and the idea is that the reason why he wants to use it is to possibly scare off Grimlock and make him run away. What ends up happening is that in the meantime, Grimlock manages to grab one status pod. Sadly, it's only because of the proximity alarm that actually goes off afterwards. By the way, the status pod that he grabs is the status pod that has Underbite in it. Yes, so he has Underbite. So Underbite was, from the second episode of the show. So he's a pretty early character, but he's pretty significant because, as people know, he is a creature that, as long as he eats metal, he becomes stronger. And because of this, it's not a good thing if they have a really strong character, if whatever is grabbing him has that metal. So anyway, what happens is that the proximity alarm goes off. Grimlock goes with the status pod containing Underbite and goes to shut up Grimlock, and goes to shut up the proximity alarm. He destroys it, and he grabs Rusty by the collar, and following this, he ends up asking him, like, what'd you do? And he says, like, did you just call for help? It's like, yes, I did. And he ends up saying, and you know who's coming? Optimus. And obviously, as we know, Optimus is not alive, and Optimus is not coming, and that's complete garbage. But, this being doesn't know that because he's controlling Grimlock, and he's not Grimlock. So Grimlock would know, but he wouldn't know. Anyway, what happens is that he gets scared, and he's like, all right, I have to bring something back. So he brings back, what would you expect? Underbite in a status pod, and only that. Following this, though, we see, following this, the others eventually get woken up and brought back or whatever, and they end up all discussing what happened. And the thing is that Grimlock mentioned some boss that he had before he left, like, I have to bring something back from the boss. And so the thing is that they all began to start to discuss things, and Strong Arm's completely thinking like, oh, Grimlock from the beginning was terrible. But the thing is that Grimlock, apparently the only thing that Grimlock did that really resulted in him being put in prison, which some of these characters really haven't done much, is the fact that he vandalized some property by just being himself. So he's really not a bad character. He's really just, he has a long tail. He has large teeth. I mean, he's a big character, so it's not easy for him to just be him. That was his biggest problem. In reality, he should not be a Decepticon, because yes, in this he is a Decepticon. That's the thing that people have to always remember, is that Grimlock in this show, sometimes shows he is and sometimes shows he changes, and in this show he's a Decepticon, which is interesting. Anyway, following this, what happens is that they end up talking about things, and they end up thinking to themselves, okay, where can a bunch of Decepticons be, like a dozen of them, that would be a location that he might be going to. So Strongarm asks Rusty this, and Rusty says the Crown River Dam, and that's when they begin to realize it. So then they go out in search of it. In the meantime, though, Fix-It goes to try to fix the comm system, but Rusty then asks him to check the Alchemore prison system to look and see what possible Decepticon is controlling, what would you say, Grimlock. And we find out, and the thing is that he doesn't say at the time, because the comm system's not working, so they can't really tell. So he can't really tell what the Decepticon is to them, and he's not going to just say it to Rusty, because that's not going to really help. I mean, he does, but you don't get to hear it then. Anyway, what happens is that Bumblebee and Sideswipe fall into a trap, which leads to them almost falling off a cliff. In the meantime, Strongarm comes from behind and is fine. We then see Grimlock bringing in the status pod and talking to Steeljaw, who, yes, Steeljaw is the person in charge, is the boss that was referred to before. And also Thunderhoof is part of this, though he's not there at the time. And so anyway, you're seeing, yes, this makes sense. Okay, so the story is beginning to become real, and you think to yourself, oh, are they going to actually go into this? Yes, they are. Following this, Bumblebee and Sideswipe and Strongarm come out of nowhere, and after Grimlock explains how he couldn't get more than one, and how he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I couldn't do this, and he's under his control, he's under some being's control or whatever, and so what happens is that eventually B ends up fighting Steeljaw in a big battle. It's a pretty cool thing. In the meantime, Sideswipe is fighting Grimlock, and it's an uncomforting fight, and so it's not so good. Following this, though, once that all happens, Strongarm also joins in, and eventually Sideswipe takes over and deals with Steeljaw while B and Strongarm end up fighting Grimlock. Sideswipe ends up talking to Steeljaw and trying to get him to figure out to explain things, but he's not giving up any information. In the meantime, we see Grimlock basically grabbing Strongarm and B and just going like grab, push, grab, push, grab, push, grab, push, grab, push, grab, push. And when I say push, I mean like push the ground and just destroy them, more or less. So just doing it over and over again. And it's not good. Let's just say that much. So anyway, following this, Sideswipe tries to help. Eventually, Strongarm's thrown at Sideswipe, grabs Strongarm, no big deal. Then B is thrown at both of them, and that's an incident. So following this, eventually, all three of them attack Grimlock. And in the meantime, Steeljaw runs away with Underbite in his status pod. So yes, Steeljaw is basically a coward and really doesn't want to get involved. Anyway, they eventually begin to get a message from Fix-It explaining what is controlling Grimlock. We find out that the creature is known as Minitron. Minitron apparently is a cyber tick, which is a creature that if it bites into a bot, it can control them. So that's its ability. It's a pretty crazy ability. Makes a lot of sense. It's been done in other shows, similar ideas. So anyway, it's Minitron. So Minitron's controlling him. So they have to then look around, try to find this little tick because really it is like a little tick, and they have to get it off of him so that he's not being controlled anymore. So each of them try to do it. So first B manages to try to find it, and actually Strongarm finds it, but then it ends up on B, and B ends up being bitten. So B ends up fighting them. So then Strongarm has to attack them. I mean, has to attack B, and then Strongarm's bitten. Following this, Sideswipe attacks Strongarm, and then Sideswipe gets bitten, and then they keep on fighting each other until eventually it's like really crazy, and eventually this Minitron climbs back towards Grimlock to hopefully fight them all. But what happens is that Grimlock ends up grabbing him with just like 2 fingers, with 2 claws or whatever, and is going almost squishes him, but instead B says, "Don't do it. Though he did all that terrible stuff to you, that doesn't mean you have to kill him." And so what happens is that instead he throws him against a wall, which knocks him out, goes unconscious. I mean, it's a small tech, and I mean, you're talking about Grimlock here. I mean, Grimlock's pretty strong. So he throws him against the wall, and then following this, they end up bringing back Minitron and putting him in his own tiny, like really, really small status pod that just fits him. Like, it's so small. So anyway, there's this status pod which has him only in it, and that's when and so then Minitron's captured. Then we find out that Grimlock is, I mean, he really is a good guy. We find out for a fact that Grimlock is a good guy, and B believes that he is a good guy, and he says that that he now trusts him enough, and he will change that Decepticon symbol to an Autobot symbol. So yes, Grimlock is going to become an Autobot. By the next episode, we should see that Autobot symbol on Grimlock. Yes. So that's awesome, because they actually have some continuity and some story going on here. I mean, that's something that's great. Sure, there's been a bunch of episodes, but you know what? That's smart, because it builds. It gives you something to go on. Because now we're seeing, oh, okay, now we know that Steeljaw is doing stuff. Oh, now Thunderhawk's involved. And we really get to see that connection now, where now they know that Steeljaw has been recruiting people, and now there is incidents. It's a very smart thing. I'm glad that they finally, you know, mention that, because, you know, there's been this whole entire silence in that regard. I mean, there's been these moments, but we never get to see the Autobots actually see all of them together. So anyway, Strongarm is worried, we find out, and Strongarm is worried about how, you know, they have Underbite, and Underbite, if he eats lots of metal over time, he's going to become super strong. But their team's pretty strong now, and it's only going to get better, guys. And so anyway, that's more or less the end of the episode, other than the fact that Grimlock gets back at Sideswipe, and for some reason even Rusty, and ends up giving them massive hugs, which not only are they massive, I mean, like, they're squeezing them to death practically. So anyway, this is all really sweet. So this is a really good episode. You know, there's so many connections that happen here. Finally, a lot of elements that were missing or weren't really explained any further are finally being explained, and the story's really building here. It's really exciting. I mean, I'm really excited to see episode 9, and I can't wait to get even further and further, because I mean, this is really fun, and I really hope that they do maybe 2-3 seasons, if not more. I really want to see a good amount of seasons. I mean, Prime only had, you know, 2 seasons, but they were, you know, 26 episodes or so a piece, which is good. This is 13 episodes apparently, or something like that right now, which is, you know, it's not bad, but it's not that much, and you would think that they would do a lot more. So maybe there might be a point later in time where they'll release more, and I hope that that's true, but right now I personally am not aware. So anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Check out all the other awesome content on this channel, and remember, guys, to stay awesome, and I will see you guys in whatever video I make next. So anyway, guys, goodbye.